It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are episode 63 today, your podcast for relatable and relevant conversations with contractors. Hopefully bringing a little bit of entertainment to you as well. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Hello, hello. Today we have Vazgen Dallakyan, co-founder, sales and marketing director with Cobex Construction Group. How you doing, Vaz?
I'm doing good. Good to talk to you guys.
Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Hey, well, kind of like we start every show, but if you could give us a breakdown of your journey to where you're at in terms of Cobex, how you got into the industry and where you started from.
Thank you for asking. Well, my journey kind of comes back with a kind of classical immigrant story. I immigrated here with my family in 1994. I was then 5 years old. And, I kind of grew up watching my dad working in construction-related field. He had a painting crew, and I did jobs with him throughout the summers, while I was going to school. And there's always construction going around, whether we were remodeling our house or helping out a friend or family. Really saw his work ethic, and I just loved, seeing something going from imagination to final creation and just making people's lives, improved overall. And it's something that I got comfortable with and familiar with. And then, it was being an immigrant, you're always not pressured, but your parents want you to go to school and get a good education. They want you to go get a degree. And, it's like, hey, medical school or engineer, doctor, lawyer, whatever, just go to school. Don't do physical labor. It's like that mentality was, get a nice office job, air conditioned and everything. And that was kind of what was.
Like he had laid the ground level for you so that you could go to the next level. And you're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're doing physical work so that you can go sit in an air conditioned office somewhere and just work from an office. And I'm like, and that was their dream. So I naturally, after high school, went into college and got my degree. I actually was in health, went to Sac State, was a kinesiology major, got into the fitness world, was working at a gym as a trainer, and then eventually had my own studio, which I liked a lot. I mean, it was really enjoyable for me. I learned a lot. I made a lot of great friends and, built my network. And honestly, I was doing really well, and it was like 10 years into it. And so me getting back into construction was a complete unexpected accident, because I was thinking of growing the gym business and setting up more locations. I already knew what I was capable of, as far as my work ethic and everything that I was able to bring to the table. But I started thinking about, scalability and potential and growth and, what kind of laterals there are available in that industry. And it just didn't excite me as much. And I started to see my mind drift towards real estate again, and construction and development. Because I always did flips, while I was doing my training business. I started really young. My first house, I was 20 years old when I bought it, rehabbed it with my dad, and we made good money. And then bought a condo a few years later, then another house, then another house. So it was always kind of something that I did. And so I liked it. So it was a little bit of an accident how I got into construction. I was having dinner with my wife and a family friend, and we were just at the patio talking, and he was doing property preservation with a partner of his. And property preservation, basically, when bank rehabs a house, they go and they make sure that the property is preserved by boarding up the windows, cleaning it, whatever. So they did that together for about 10 years. My partner, then my friend, said that they want to get into construction. I said, what specifically in construction? They said home improvement. And I'm like, what does that look like? What do you need? And they're like, well, we need a good sales and marketing person. Do you know anybody? And jokingly, I said, yes, me.
Whoops.
I was, and at that time I was pretty comfortable doing what I was doing. I wasn't really entertaining. I didn't know anything about home improvement, specifically the business, right? So, but that triggered a thought, and, I thought about it some more, and I did a little bit of research. I had a second visit with him. Second visit led to another visit with his partner at the time. And then once we saw that our values, our vision and our goals aligned, and I saw that I would be able to bring something to the table, that's kind of how this whole thing got started. And really very, very small, where we just the three of us out of a small 10 by 10 office. We would we would generate a lead, go and do the site inspection, sell the job, subcontract it out. We made some money, so we had some money to reinvest, and then now we work on building the brand up a little bit. But in the beginning, it was very I guess a lot of it was the perception that you're able to put on. So we acted as a really big company.
Right.
So fake it till you make it. Oh, jinx.
Exactly. So somebody would call, and we'd answer it professionally. We'd have an answering system, and then I'd transfer over and I'd pick up the call. And then when we worked on the brand, the name and everything, it just looked like we were like a legitimate big company. But really, we were working out of a small 10 by 10 office, just in an executive suite. And but then our first jobs went well. We made some money. We were able to reinvest, remarket, continue to build the brand and everything. And then we went from $0 in our first year. We didn't really borrow money to start. We made a couple $1,000s to get leads. We made $2 million in our first year.
Wow!
In our second year, we made $4 million. In our third year, we made $6 million, and now we're projecting to do $8 million. So this is going to be that's been the trajectory for us since we started. We went from 3 of us, and now there's about 30 employees.
Good. Nice.
Wow. Any of the employees, are you guys performing any of the work yourself, or are you guys subbing everything out?
Great question. So in the beginning, we started subbing everything out because it just was the most cost-effective way to do it, lowest liability way to do it. And, we had the good news, the good thing that worked out in our favor is we had a lot of people in our network that we knew that were remodelers, contractors, and craftsmen. So we were able to utilize those resources first. We started with all subs, and then we started slowly bringing on trades, people who were doing woodwork, windows, roofing repairs. So we have a group internally that we use, but we do still sub a lot of jobs out. But what we call them, of course, they're our captured subs, and they primarily do our jobs, and just have a great relationship with them. And we know what to expect. They know what to expect from us. And, it's been working out pretty good that way.
That's amazing. So are you guys still kind of doing home preservation for different banks, or how are you generating leads, or what are you guys doing now?
Yeah. So the home preservation, that's their business. It's still kind of in the, it's self-sufficient. It's not as busy as it was, there's not, that might change,
I was going to say, give it about 2 or 3 years. They might get real busy again.
We'll see how things go.
Knock on wood, right? Yeah.
We might start getting a little busy again, but, so we primarily get our leads now through, a lot of it is just organic. People find us online. We have a pretty good presence. We have good reviews across the board. Yelp, Angie's List, Google, Facebook, across all the platforms, we're pretty highly rated. And then we have a digital in-house marketing team, which started off as they were, they did something else, and we kind of developed that role for them. And so they do a pretty good job. And then, of course, still, we'll still brand trucks. We'll wrap them. We'll put a couple of billboards up here and there. Again, a lot of it is perception, right? So if you're buying mental real estate, and so if they see us online, then they see our billboard, then they see our trucks, and then, social media has been starting to pick up more and more for us. So I try to be active, try to get our guys to go on there and just, be active on social media. So now the perception is, we're a really big company, and, and it's still, and now we're a lot bigger than we were when we first started, but
right.
Maybe we don't want to air this then, right? We're going to air out your dirty laundry here. We're going to pull the cat out of the bag here.
It doesn't sound like they got a lot of dirty laundry though, man.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, we're 30 employees. We're not. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not that small guy anymore.
I wouldn't say we're small. In the beginning, it was a lot more perception than now. It's just that's just who we are. We just became that. So.
That's awesome.
You've created that momentum. It sounds like, and it's starting to kind of pay in dividends in terms of the marketing side, of course, but referrals, I bet too, are also part of that. That's crazy.
That's the referral game, the referral and the repeat business. And that's kind of the biggest, nod that we're doing it the right way, is that we've been getting a lot of business that has been repeat referrals now. And so we were still pretty young. I mean, we're 3-4 years old, but now, half of our business is referrals and repeats. So, so that's a really big positive for us. I mean, yeah.
Are you guys purchasing any property and then rehabbing it and kind of flipping and doing that process? Or is most of your work coming from like remodel work from private homeowners?
So great question. A lot of it is private homeowners reaching out to us. In the beginning, we kind of did a little bit of everything. So we just did whatever. What do you want? What do you want done? We'll do it. We'll figure it out. We'll do it. And we did. As we started to scale and grow, to get the production process, more streamlined, the sales process, the marketing consistency, we realized that we need to start narrowing in. So it went from like 25 trades to 15 trades, and now we're, 10 trades. And then we are trying to narrow to get it to a very streamlined process, with less trades, but we're primarily focusing on exterior trades. So not so much full remodels, but exterior trades, roofing, window, siding, patio covers, and those kinds of trades.
So more the improvement side rather than the remodel side.
Yeah. Very
cool. And is it all residential? Are you guys doing any commercial work at all? Is that something you guys are looking into?
We have looked into it, but as you know, probably a commercial is a whole other animal in itself.
Yeah.
And, we're kind of at the place right now where we see a lot of return on investment, and we focus really heavily on what we're doing in residential. So it's just and the energy, if we spend it in building on the commercial, it will take right now away from our main core, which is the residential. I would say 95% residential. And that's pretty much where our focus is.
Yeah, well, if you find something that you're successful at, it's often a lot of companies start to go under when they try to expand beyond what they're familiar with, right? So you find something you're successful at, and you stick to it, you get better at it. It sounds like you guys are on that.
It makes everything simpler. I mean, it makes the sales training simpler, the product training, the production process. Just the overall service. There's just less moving parts, especially when you start streamlining it more. So that's our goal, is to get more narrowed in on that as we continue to grow.
So transitioning from that point where you were 100% subbing everything out to, now having some labor force in-house, what were you looking for? Where were you finding those people? How did you bring them on, and how did that process work of hiring that group of employees?
So from our experience, it's always been best to, referrals, references from other people, or maybe we tried them as a sub before and we liked them, and then we brought them in-house. It's obviously in California, finding good labor is always a big challenge.
Tough,
it's really tough. And, so from our experience, it's been pretty much just the network of people that we know in our community, our churches. We do find a lot of people from church and the church communities. Social media, people reach out, that's been really helpful, and they say, hey, I have an uncle, a cousin, a friend, this or that, and now that our company is building a little bit more, I guess, reputation, I think more and more people are reaching out to us. And then, of course, you have your traditional routes where you can post on a job site or something like that. But we have thought of down the road maybe doing some kind of an apprenticeship training program, because we find that, when you can find somebody young, maybe out of school, and they want to learn, and you can take them through a journeyman and apprenticeship program, and a master level roofer or contractor can kind of work with them, and they can work their way up. I think that way you can build some loyalty, bringing somebody on from the ground level and building them up too. So.
Yeah. And when you're looking at new people, what does that vetting process look like for you? Are you looking for people with experience, more of a culture fit that you can train, or what's been the most successful process for you?
Yeah. So the process internally, like we're in-house marketing, sales, production, operations, project management is a little bit different than the contractors, because, we see the in-house day-to-day, they operate there to interface with the customer a lot of times. But the values and the principles don't change much. So integrity and transparency are our two core values at our company. So, often if you have somebody who is really they're craftsmen, they're very good, they're very talented, and they're intelligent, in their job, but they lack integrity, kind of blows those other two out of the water. You just really can't continue a long-term relationship with that. So I'd say the number one thing we look for is just integrity, and honesty. Skills can be taught, right? A process could be made more efficient, but if there's a lack in integrity, then that's something that it's a red flag. And sometimes, those, skilled laborers and stuff, if that's a common thing, it never works out too well. So that's one of the main vetting points.
Yeah, I'd say that's huge. We spoke with a guy earlier, plumber, and he was talking about how difficult it can be to find good labor, and how he was interested in opening up his own school. Just because, for him, it's like he has a very particular set of, and it kind of veered towards integrity issues too. He had a guy that was siphoning gas out of his gas tank and had to let all those guys go. But you're right. If you can find somebody that is teachable and able to be taught, but has high integrity, high value systems, high character, as long as they're teachable, you can probably teach them pretty much anything. If they have good work ethic, it's not hard to do.
Work ethic, that's,
I would say that's part of integrity, right?
It is. Yeah. I mean, just, we had some, you've heard of nightmare stories where the roof is torn off and we can't get a hold of the contractor. We just hired him. We put him on payroll. Interview went great. It seemed like, they were just really diligent and willing, but, something happened and you can't get a hold of them. And now you have to, put that fire out. And, I think the integrity piece, like you said, if they're willing to show up, they're willing to work, they're coachable, they're teachable, and they want to grow, it's also really hard to work with somebody who doesn't really strive to get better or to grow, because they want to do enough just to kind of get by, right? Just the minimum. But unfortunately, when you're growing the company, and, they level out here, but the company is growing there, then eventually the company is going to outgrow them. So especially a new company, which we have very strong, big goals in front of us. If we want to keep growing, but we don't have that same attitude, with other people, what might be a blessing in the beginning might be a liability later on. That mentality of them wanting to get better, them wanting to grow is actually another big, I would say, thing that I would look for when I'm hiring somebody too.
So from a training standpoint, it doesn't sound like, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of the three of you kind of had a extensive background in construction. I know you had some experience with your father and your family, but from a training standpoint, now that you're actually bringing employees on in the field, what are you guys doing there to train those new employees? Did you guys bring on people that you knew were qualified and trusted and kind of use those, or how did you guys start that process out?
Yes. Yeah. So the process was, first of all, when the people who we did bring on, the subcontractors that we used, there are subcontractors so my partners, I should mention this too. My two partners, they were building custom houses,
okay, cool.
A whole lot of custom homes, just maybe a few a year.
Right.
But, when doing that, you meet a lot of contractors and people tend to use the same contractors. So there was a lot of that was brought to the table. In terms of contractors, and then the ones who, we found the most trustworthy, reliable, and, good, they helped us, they helped us grow the company and train new people if they wanted to go on and shadow them or learn from them. And, they allowed that to happen. And so that was putting them basically with somebody who's really proficient, really talented at their craft,
it sounds like you had subcontractors that you trusted and they were doing a lot of work for you. You ended up turning into kind of employees, right? You kind of brought them on your own. How did that process work, or how did you guys approach that negotiation or that conversation to bring them on as employees, and how did that go?
So it's actually not that easy. I'll tell you why. Because
that's what I'm saying. Because I feel like if I'm a business owner, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm going to control my own schedule. What if I don't want to work for you anymore? You know what I mean?
So most people don't. Because they're making a lot of money right now if they're good. The subcontracting jobs, and there's enough labor. There's enough people willing to pay right now, especially if you're good. To be honest, we haven't really been heavily focused on bringing on in-house because of that reason. And sometimes with certain trades like, roofing, which have high insurance, high workers' comp and stuff, sometimes you have to compare apples to apples. You have to compare them to I get it if you're doing a large construction job where it's like a $5 million project, 5-month-long project. It's a little different. But when your average job is a 3-day job or a 4-day job, right? Sometimes it costs the same, if not a little bit less, using a subcontractor than it does an employee. So there's really not a very strong motivation in all the trades to bring him in-house. But some trades make sense, especially when the durations are longer, from a cost standpoint.
Yeah.
And so we had several conversations where somebody was, they weren't licensed yet, but they were working under a brother's license, a cousin's license, somebody else's license, our license, whatever. And then we said, we'll give you, some consistency in pay, and there'll be room to grow. And it's very hard because they have to take a pay cut from where they are. So it'd be really trying to sell a vision of one day growing into a company that's going to grow. And a lot of times, for them, if they look at it and they're like, what do we have in front of us? We have, X amount of dollars a month. I have to take a cut that hopefully one day I'll be able to grow. So it's a hard decision to make for them. But some of them did make that decision.
Well, I'm sure part of that conversation too, from your standpoint, would be, doing it legit, right? Doing it the right way rather than working under somebody else's license or working maybe without insurance or without bonds or any, some of those type of things where you could kind of say, hey, look, doing all these things, some of these things could go sideways and you could be put into this kind of, terrible situation and that, you're giving them stability and guaranteed work and paychecks and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, true. And also just, them wanting to be a part of, a company that's growing, then they may have a place in that where one day they can manage a big enough crew of their own or handle operations.
Yeah.
Level. So selling the vision, has a big role in it. And so, but yeah, it's definitely very challenging.
Yeah.
How have you guys managed through the current COVID process? And the whole situation?
So during that time, I think probably mid-March when it really hit and everything kind of closed down, we had some options in front of us. Option number, one that a lot of companies did was just shut the doors until, things kind of just became a little bit more clear. We didn't want to do that. We just made some moves where we saw that, number one, we can't do our events in our home shows, right? Because those are closed down. That was a big part of where our leads were coming from.
Yeah.
And then the door-to-door canvassing, which wasn't as big for us. We don't really focus on that too much, but it was still a good flow. Those had to get cut. And so almost half of our leads got cut. And then people were kind of hesitant, right? So I told the sales reps, I told the team and whoever, I said, look, we're going to have to really, really scale back and be lean during this time. And so, if you guys want to go on unemployment just because I cannot promise you leads, I can't promise you jobs during this time, I completely understand. So I gave that option to them. And for some of them, it made sense and they did it. And for a lot of them, they decided to stay and grind it out. And guess what? That slowdown was only for about 2-3 weeks. Once April came back around, we just started to see a lot more people just, they're ready to move forward, get their home improvements done. And I almost feel like we're in a very interesting location here, right? Where there's still a very little supply of homes on the market. So the house values did almost, they went up, right? So people's equities were going up. And so they were spending money on remodeling. So we didn't get the same quantity of leads still, but since myself and my partners, we started going out to more of those sales to kind of keep things lean, the closing rates went up almost double. And so the profitability went up and the success of landing those jobs went up, although the quantity went down. So on a net level, we didn't really see a dip at all.
Interesting.
So
we grew. This last 3 months we're growing more than we did the year before.
Yeah. So, I mean, are there certain things you're going to take away from how you guys operated during that process and kind of move forward? Or what I guess,
what are the lessons?
I guess you would be silly not to, right? If you're more lean and more profitable now, but what are some of those takeaways that you guys are going to move forward with, even as things get back to quote unquote normal?
Yeah. The big takeaway I would say is, look at the inefficiencies. Of course, when you're growing, you're moving fast. You're making, progress. It's hard to go into the deep level of details of the inefficiencies and just really look at that.
Yeah, you're really just trying to manage that top line.
You're just trying to manage the top line. So you unless you have somebody really looking at that, some things get missed, right? But when you get hit with something like this, and it makes you really have to look, deep, into what's not bringing the best return. It makes you do that. So we were forced to do that, and it really helped us a lot. It made us. One second, I'm gonna put the charge on. It made us really look at where the best, where we weren't getting the best returns, and now I think going back into it for sure. What we did differently is focus more on qualifying the leads that we had more, and just focusing more on sending out the top performers, the top closers, and training a lot more training, and just some of the marketing inefficiencies got cut out. Some of the people who just were not. I guess I heard this thing once where it said, if you have somebody where you're questioning whether or not they're bringing a value, then
they're probably not. Yeah,
they're not. So whoever we had was a no-brainer, and we just kept the no-brainers.
Well, I worked in restaurants for a long time in restaurant management, and obviously turnover inside a restaurant, most of them are pretty high, with all the servers and hourly employees, bartenders and bussers and all those kind of things. And so we always had the mentality, we were always taught, like, even if you are fully staffed, to be looking for good people and replacing your bottom 5%. Because if you think about it, if you're going to rank everybody, if you're an honest owner, right, and you're going to rank everybody, you've got 100 people on your payroll, whatever it is, there's 4 or 5 that are going to be at the bottom. I mean, it has to be, right? There's got to, and if you could replace that person with somebody that would fill in to like the top 20%, then you're only getting better. So to that point, it's kind of that same concept, right? Like, even if you don't need people, you could probably always replace your bottom 5%.
True.
And if your employees know that you have that mentality, they're going to do what they can and not be in that bottom 5%.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. And, honestly, that was an area of weakness, I would say, for myself too, is, I would always look at myself and say, okay, what could I have done better? What can I have done differently? Instead of just saying, hey, this is just not a performer, I would always try to find a hole and maybe I could do something differently. But that's time, and time is money.
The time suck. It gets exhausting. Yeah,
it gets exhausting, and so hire, slow fire, fast, I would say, would probably still be.
Yeah. That seems to be a theme with a lot of people we talk to is not being afraid to, or getting to that realization, getting over that hump of, you are a business owner. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you are responsible for that employee and their going home and being able to provide for their family and this, that, but also, you got a business to run and you got to make sure that.
Well, and I think that, the temptation when things are rolling and you have revenue coming in is to hire fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's usually where the problems occur. You just kind of fill the space because you think you heard from somebody or you got a good feeling from them that they're the ones to bring in. And then now you're dealing with whether it's internal cultural conflicts or whatever, or they're not coming to work, or, now you're faced with $100,000 workers' comp claim or something that puts you in a position where you're like, man, I wish I went the route of hiring slow and firing fast. And actually that kind of like segues into, because I got to imagine you going from just the 3 of you, 3-4 years ago, to 30 employees. And it sounds like we're talking about some of that getting lean in this space and time. But prior to that, what were some of, I got to imagine there were some hurdles that you guys,
some challenges that
you experienced, especially with growing so fast. And has COVID just really put a magnifying glass on that right now? And you've really kind of seen some of those challenges, or has that been something that you've been able to address as you've gone along?
It has. We had a good a business coach in the beginning. We worked with them for a little bit, and one thing kind of really left with us was profit, process, people, and in that order when we're first starting: profit, process, people. So when we were first starting, it was just we need to be profitable. We need to make profit. Then as we're getting profitable, to work more on the process, and then make sure that we the people and the culture is being built. So I think in the beginning, we focused a lot on, just making sure that we're profitable. During COVID, was heavily focused on processes.
Processes, yeah. Being efficient.
That was the big, And it was difficult for us. Our big hurdle was that we were doing so many different trades. Again, when we were trying to be competitive in pricing by not just hiring people left and right, project managers, which can cost a lot of money, we had to be very efficient, and turn jobs over quickly. But we realized, hey, we're closing about 40, 50 jobs a month with 2-3 project managers. And, so maybe we're not able to get to the customer right away. Maybe we're not able to, maybe something got missed. And then we're seeing that, okay, the process needs to be worked on. But before we jumped into hiring another project manager, I looked at some automations, some CRMs that helps us, keep everything more streamlined in the process, which essentially saved us some extra hiring needs, because it eliminated
saving payroll dollars.
Yeah, saving payroll dollars by using a good a robust CRM for job management. And we already had that down for the sales and marketing process, but we never really worked on it really heavily on project management. It was still kind of old school, board, and everything just kind of it wasn't so digitalized. Now we've invested into some technology there that's helping us streamline the jobs a lot better. And so right now we're really focusing on the processes more and narrowing, again, the trades that we're offering, because it's difficult to train a sales rep 30 different products and for them to get really good at knowing how to sell 30 different products and for the team to know all the moving parts of 30 different products and to manage it. So narrowing that down, working on, using technology, automation, and a better CRM, project management tool. That's pretty much our main focus right now as far as the process side of things go.
So when you were narrowing down some of those and eliminating some of those trades that you guys were doing in the past and aren't doing now, what were some of the key factors into moving away from something? Was it more the profitability wasn't there, or was it more working specifically with contractors you like and those relationships where you're strong? What were some of the factors?
Yeah, so you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So when it comes to us knowing where to move, whatever we had the best measurement tools to look at, whether it was profitability, and cost and everything, we realized once looking over the financials, looking over the profitability report, the timeline, and just once we started putting everything down and looking at it, we knew kind of, but you don't really know until you take a deeper dive on it. Yeah, we realized, okay, these are the fastest turnarounds, right? Our exterior trades, they're the fastest turnarounds. There's the fewest amount of moving parts, and they're the highest profitability, and we have the best capacity for contractors. And so we looked at those pieces, said fastest turnaround, highest profitability, fewest moving parts, and best contractors for those jobs.
Easy.
That's how we made our decision.
Yeah. That makes the decision very easy at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that took us from 30 trades to 12. And then now from 12, we want to get down to half of that. And my goal is 3 trades, but that's it's hard to say no to business, right? We can say no and just focus on those 3 trades, but we're still good at those other trades. But if we can build the same volume and just focus on 3 trades, I think that'll even help us grow even further.
help you manage it even more. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So
you talk about kind of eliminating trades as long as you can maintain the volume. What are some of the other visions you guys have? What does the future look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we want to really perfect what we're doing here, get a good system, make it healthy financially. We've been pretty healthy for a long time, but to the point where we have a healthy operation and management in place, so that if we decide to put satellite locations in different parts of the state, or even branching out to different states, we're looking at a few different states right now. We're looking at Texas, Idaho, Florida.
Why would you leave California? It's so easy to run a business here.
You nailed it. It's too easy.
It's in Sacramento. You can just run up to the capital.
I guess we need a new challenge, right? We're getting too easy over here. No, man. When we first started, all of our sales reps were 1099. It was so easy to just have a 1099 sales rep, a lot less. Once W-2, it became a little bit more challenging. It did have some benefits. You have a little bit more control there. So California is definitely not getting cheaper, but but at the same time, we don't want to run away from things. We want to find a way to adapt over them, and that's kind of what we've done since the beginning. So we'd rather be in a position where, look, like we've adapted to California, we've made it work, we've got a great process, we can take this and duplicate this now in different locations. And I think probably in the next, hopefully, year or so, we might just end up doing that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Very cool, man.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Vaz, amazing. So cool to see how you guys have been able to take a dream and an idea in the backyard with your wife and some friends to where you guys are at today. One of the questions we tend to ask here and there is any funny, crazy. I mean, I know you delved into some of those at the very beginning in terms of faking it till you make it, optics, perception, and all that. But any other stories that come to mind that are just entertaining and funny that have happened along the way, maybe at the very beginning?
Oh man, one project I guess that comes to mind. It was a very large project. It was a multiple level deck, 3-story, 1,500 square feet. And I went there. I saw the project. I walked it myself, and the homeowner said that I was the 10th contractor. And I was like, ooh, the 10th contractor that came out. But after looking at the scope and everything, we were confident that we'd be able to take it on and do a pretty good job at it. And, the project kept getting more and more interesting as you start tearing off, the multiple levels of damage that was there. Of course, more surprises were there. And I guess the homeowner, he is part of he's from the same territory of the world that I'm at, which is he's from the Middle East. I'm kind of Eastern, not Eastern European, but more Armenia is kind of in the Middle East. Yeah. There's some similarities that he's Persian, so he's Iranian. So he I guess he felt that there's more in common that we have together. So he every time I would bring him a change order, or every time I'd bring him something new, he would always think that I'm trying to play this game where we're going to haggle on price. And I'm like, hey, I know you think I'm coming because I want to start haggling with you. I'm like, I'm trying to give you my best. And so he would still haggle me. I'm like, okay, so now I have to add some extra cushion there so you can play the game. There was so much that came up. So it was so funny because I'm like, I told him, I was like, hey, just trust me that I'm going to bring you my best and final. Every time I would see that, he would still haggle me. I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that because it's not going to make sense. So I'd have to always come and we'd have to play this game. And it probably happened so many times. I'm like, that's probably the most recent one where I'm like,
build an extra 10% in that way. When you knock it off, it makes him feel good. Yeah,
exactly. He just wanted to negotiate.
Right. Yeah.
He wanted to feel like he was getting a great deal. So I would have to always add something and we'd have to play this game of negotiating. So he'd feel like he got a good deal.
A win-win, really? I mean, about being adaptable. There you go.
Hey, that's okay. I get it. I guess that's what we got to do, but
That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Vaz, thanks so much for spending time with us today. If you could, maybe share with the people where to find you guys online, social media, all that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Cobex Construction Group. You can just search Cobex, Cobex, and we're on Google, and from there, your social media, Instagram, Facebook, Cobex Construction Group.
Awesome.
Where did the name come from?
So the name originally was going to be Cornerstone Construction. I thought it was very clever and everything. So we designed the logo, we designed the C and everything.
Oh, no.
Go find domains. I was like, holy smokes, I can't use this name. It's everywhere. I'm like, we gotta find something that starts with a C. So we couldn't think of anything. And then one day, I don't know what happened. I just started writing stuff down and I wrote down Cobex. We looked at it. We're like, all right, I guess it looks good. It sounds good. We'll make it into whatever it's going to be. And that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome.
That's funny because it's a legitimate name. It sounds rad. It's like one of those, it's like Twitter or whatever, one of those random word plays that comes up. I mean, we had a guy actually, just recently dropped Integra.
Yeah.
They do like offsite construction for residential stuff for new ground up stuff. And he had a similar kind of, I was sitting in LA and it was raining and I had to figure out, and I came up with 3 different words and they just put them together and there you go. Integra.
It actually works out great because it's so easy to domain market. There's not as much, names out there.
Yeah.
And our Cobex is actually kind of funny because when you write them all out in capital, it doesn't matter how you twist it. If you turn it, it still says Cobex, which is completely ironic. But
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So,
Well, it's phonetically easy to spell too. You don't have to sound out or whatever. You don't have to worry
But
about
like, how do you spell that? Cobex.
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
Very
thank
cool,
you,
man.
Vaz. Appreciate it, man.
We appreciate it. Yeah. Stay in touch and stay safe out there.
Yeah, for
We will.
sure.
All right. Take
Cool.
care, guys.
Have a good
All
one.
right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.